Disclaimer: this video is for educational and historical purposes only. G.R.C.H. Adams Zebo? In the early 1970s, in North Carolina, was a young fancier named Lonzo Pratt who was just starting in the dog game, and was purchasing and breeding some well-bred dogs from known dog men. He had purchased a young tested gyp from J. Lapose by the name of Faye, who was sold, because she turned cold, and wouldn't start for Jack Kelly, and was left on Lapose's yard by Pete Sparks. After numerous breedings, Lonzo struck fame from one breeding that contained 3 males and 2 females. The 2 females were Lena and Rosie, the males were Crush, Vindicator, and Zero. Of the 3 males, Zero and Vindicator would distinguish themselves as great match dogs. The better of the 2 was Zero, as Zebo was originally named, who gained his fame as a match dog and producer. In all, this black 40 to 44 pounds dog won a total of 7 contract matches, thus becoming a registered Grand Champion, a Register of Merit sire, and a member of the Bulldog Hall of Fame, the only dog to be recognized by these 3 honors. Zebo's career began on the yard of Lester Hughes, the Mountain Man, where he won 4 times, all quick kills. After his 4th, he was shipped to the yard of Grady Cummings, and while there, Cummings' Red Fox made the mistake of getting off his leash, and ran into Zebo, and was killed. Grady then made Lester get Zebo off of his yard. Zebo was then sold to Dave Adams of Ohio, of whom Zebo is best associated with. At first Mr. Hughes hadn't intended on selling Zebo, but Mr. Adams came up with enough money to change his mind. His most noted match was against C.H. Greaser, and how both sides thought they had trapped the other side by running in an ace on their opponent's average dog. How wrong they both were? Champion Zebo was the black dog, and Champion Greaser was the brindle. How they came to meet on a cool night in a barn in Ohio is a complicated but interesting story. Champion Greaser was being campaigned at 44 pounds in and around Oklahoma, and Champion Zebo was being matched around North Carolina at 40 pounds. Greaser was an extremely smart defensive type of dog that could really bite. He'd gained his deserved reputation by proving this in his first 4 matches against dogs that were not pushovers. Likewise, so had Zebo. The difference being Zebo's matches were short ones, lasting only 22,226, 17, and 33 minutes, all kills. After his 4th win, a man named Adams bought Zebo, and took him back up north to Ohio. Adams had a friend named Hudson who had matched the dog at 44 pounds into a father and son team from St. Louis. Hudson's dog was from Maurice Carver, and was a 2-time winner at 44 pounds named Tex. Hudson was a nice fellow but could really get on your nerves bragging so much on his dog, because it was Tex this and Tex that for as long as you would listen. I guess the team from St. Louis got tired of listening, and just figured they would whip old Tex, and shut Hudson up. Now when you matched into this father and son team, you had better do 3 things: get a good dog, have the dog in good shape, and say your favorite prayer. As luck or fate, or whatever you desire to call it goes, Tex got hurt in a chain fight and Hudson was going to have to pay the forfeit. Rather than give away money, he called Adams and offered Adams a deal. If Adams would take over the match with Zebo and win, Hudson would split the winnings with him, and if he lost, Hudson would pay the whole bet. Adams had been walking Zebo, and cutting his weight, for at that time there was a big convention in Mexico being matched up, and Adams had turned Zebo's weight in. The Mexican convention was supposed to be the biggest and best ever put on, but the law intervened, and it never did come about. Adams didn't know the convention would fall apart, but he thought that as he had almost 3 months until the Mexican convention and Texas match was only 3 weeks away, that he could take over Texas match and win without getting hurt too much, and still be healthy and set Zebo down in the Mexican convention. So, he agreed to take over the match, but told his backer that if Zebo wasn't way ahead at 30 minutes he was going to pick him up, because he wanted to match him in the big convention. Hudson agreed to this, as with Zebo's kill record, he would rather gamble and give up a few pounds to make it number 5 than give up the forfeit. Meanwhile, out in St. Louis, the team had a dog that was considered to be the best 44-pounder of his time. This Greaser had started out being called Eubanks Greaser. If my information is correct, Eubanks campaigned Greaser in his first 4 matches. All wins over some highly regarded opponents. Greaser had given his fans real reason to call him the best 44-pounder alive, as his opponents were good caliber dogs like Maloney's Alligator and Mayfield's Go Devils. The team purchased Greaser especially for the Tex match since Old Tex was a good dog in his own rights, and the team knew they had to have an above-average dog in order to beat Tex. How and why? The team got Greaser is only hearsay on my part. The point is Greaser was the best 44-pounder alive. And he was the dog they had to use on Tex. So we have the stage set. The Ohio boys have an ace named Zebo, which the team doesn't know about. And the team has an ace named Greaser tuning up that the Ohio boys don't know about. Then it became time to put up, or shut up for old Zebo, for Adams announced he was taking over Hudson's match. The night of the Battle of Champions arrived, with only Greaser's side knowing now that they were going into Zebo. When they arrived, they wanted to see this killer dog they were matched into, and laughingly said, "He don't look like no killer to us." Adams, nor any of his backers, knew Zebo was going into a 4X winner. They should have suspected something, for fanciers from out west had driven all the way to Ohio to see Greaser knock off this killer dog. Jimmy Jobe, the editor of Pit Dog Report, a Mayfield magazine for bulldogs, drove all the way, and didn't even mention the match in his magazine. This match was one of the best kept secrets in the dog world, and when the story of it taking place did start to circulate, the match was downplayed. The first report of it anywhere, that I am, or was aware of, was in Richard Stratton's book. When you read the account, it tends to make you believe Zebo got lucky, and hurt Greaser bad at the beginning of the match. This is false, as Greaser was on all fours late in the fight. When the dogs were weighed, Zebo weighed just over 40 pounds. Greaser hit the scales at exactly 44 pounds. As Adams circulated among his backers before the match, he reminded everyone that he was giving up 4 pounds, and was going to pick Zebo up at 30 minutes because he'd only worked him for 3 weeks, and 4 pounds was too much to spot. As they released the two champions, you could bet all you wanted on Zebo, and get odds of 3-1, or 300 against your 100. As bets were laid and odds were taken, the name Greaser started to finally slip out. Zebo's backers were aware finally that this was not going to be a walkover. People started to worry about their bet because Adams had warned that he was gone at 30 if Zebo wasn't way ahead. Adams said later, when Dogman and Johnson called me to the side of the pit at about the 5-minute mark, and told me they recognized the brindle dog as Ch. Greaser, any thought of picking Zebo up at 30 minutes was gone. I knew I would let him battle as long as he had any chance to win. I realized that I didn't have to go to Mexico to prove that Zebo was a great dog, the chance had come to me. As the match progressed, it could be basically reported in 2 sentences. Greaser is extremely smart on defense, and punishes Zebo bad about the head. Zebo is extremely smart on getting to the brisket and punishes Greaser bad in the chest. That is how close the match was? You would think that the 4 pounds would tip the scales in Greaser's favor, but Zebo was ever so gradually getting a little bit deeper in the chest, and even though Greaser was as smart as ever relying on defense, he was forced to allow Zebo and more often as the match grew older. The following is an accurate account of the match as can be made, but remember as you read this excerpt from Mr. Stratton's book, that in this writer's opinion, and I was there, Zebo took Greaser down a notch at a time over the entire match, where here it tends to make you think that Greaser was destroyed early. Unfortunately, Zebo attacked Mr. Adams' son, and nearly took his son's ear off. After the request of Mr. Adams' wife, Zebo was sold again, this time to Mr. Johnson, who fought him twice more, the last time to a son of his litter mate brother, Vindicator. Mr. Johnson hoped to get another match in, but was unable to find any takers, despite the fact that Zebo was past 7 at this point. Thus, Zebo was retired to stud, and lived to the age of 13, siring his last litter days before his death. He had lost sight at the end, due to the extensive damage he sustained, for no dog was ever able to get to his rear. During the time of Zebo's career as a match dog, there were 2 other dogs in his weight class that too was making names for themselves, Stinson and Glover's Gr. Ch. Art and Giroux Ch. Gunner, 4X winner. It was planned to have a round robin for the title of the greatest match dog, whereas each dog would go into each other to prove who was the greatest match dog. Each of these great dogs were relatively close to each other in regard to location. But, for whatever reasons, and hearsay has provided many, the matches never materialized. Vindicator was a red-nosed dog that many, who had witnessed him match, contend he was a better dog than Zebo. He was a two-time winner, winning each in identical times of 1:30. One of those victories was over Finley Ch. Bo. He lost his third to Cutchin's Ace. Vindicator died at a young age of heartworms. Rosie, like Vindicator, was also red-nosed, but was never formally matched, though she was tested for 110. She simply was considered to jet too valuable as a brood bitch. She lived to the age of 10, dying also of heartworms a month after her last litter. Zebo produced Step Ch. Willie and Adam Ch. Katie when bred to Tom's Spider-Rum. Ch. Willie was, as said by some, to have the same destructive force of his sire, by killing each of his opponents in times of 27:54 and 29 minutes. Others produced by Zebo were Ch. Ruby Ch. Abuelita Ch. Zipper Ch. Diamond Jim, Clemens 2XWZ Boy, Nigger Toby, Super Nats 2XW Blackie, and Hughes Gator, just to name a few of the good dogs he sired. He is the grandsire to some great ones like Doc Ch. Mo, who was a grand champion until he ran into Red BCH. Charlie. Many said that Mo went to the well one time too many in his loss against Charlie. After his victories over Ch. Fargo and his brother Basket, too much was taken out of him to go into a much younger dog like Charlie. The breeding that produced Zebo and his litter mates was one of those outstanding litters that come only once in a while. Basically, this breeding was a Dibbo Old Family red-nosed Colby cross, which explains why all of Zebo's litter mates were red, or red-nosed. But where did this one black dog come from? Many speculate Zebo wasn't bred as represented. For one, Mr. Hughes purchased Zebo from Lonzo without any papers. Some claimed Mr. Hughes sold many different Zebos, and a lot claimed Zebo to be a half-brother to another famous pair, Eli Jr. and Bullison. Although Lonzo's Andy was a black dog himself, and Zebo threw nothing but black dogs, even when bred to various, different colored females, it still remains a question, and a lot of